Hello.
Hello. There is a lighter energy that is beginning to come into the planet, for I'm sure many of you have been feeling a lot of heaviness and density over the last several weeks. And it is that much work is being done with the Ascended Masters, the Angelic Realm, and the Great Brothers of Light as they are working diligently to create a shift in the collective consciousness of humanity and to support Mother Earth in her transition as she is awakening to the vibration that will support her and support humanity into remembering who it is that they are. And in fact, a releasing or a slaying of the sleep state in which many beings on your planet find themselves in at this time. And so some completion of that has occurred, and in doing so, you might begin to feel a surge of lighter energy start to come in, and some profound shifts and changes and openings to support you in creating and experiencing more joy. And so we are here to remind you always, for our job from the angelic realm is to stir you from your sleep and your slumber and the illusion of the third dimensional reality, to awaken you to the larger aspect of really deeply who it is that you are. For we find that you get easily caught in the mind and the thoughts, and as my understanding is, your topic is your words, and in doing so you perpetuate realities in which are no longer serving you or the collective group or the masses as a whole or Mother Earth. And so we will speak today about the power of the word and the power of the thought, for it is one of the most important topics. And we understand that you have questions that are very third dimensional in relationships to how you relate to others around the word and speaking your truth. So we shall address that, but then we would like to go in and speak to this from a greater, perhaps, perspective that might support you in your awakening. And so, with that, what is it you are wanting to ask?
Good morning, Raphael. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Yes, for it is a bit lighter today, and it is easier for us to transmit information and communicate today, for there is a bit of more opening in your atmosphere. And so, what is it you are wanting to talk about?
Well, that's wonderful. Our first question is, I'd love to hear Archangel Raphael's advice on speaking your truth when your truth may hurt or negatively impact another person. How can we navigate being truthful while also being sensitive and compassionate to others?
Well, it is that I am not in your dimension, so my full comprehension of how you navigate such things, I will give my best understanding. For it is that discernment is extraordinarily important. And discernment is something in which you really get still and quiet, and you tap into your intuition and your inner knowing, and you ask, is this of the greatest service for myself and the other involved? And it is important to know that speaking your truth can occur directly when you are talking directly to another person in your life or relationship in which you have, but you can also speak your truth to their higher self, and your higher self can communicate, in which you can release perhaps anger or upset, hurt, jealousy, criticism, feeling unloved, or whatever it may be, unappreciated, in a way in which they can hear it from a higher perspective, and they're not in their personality, ego, and defensive body. And so we recommend, before any large conversation about something of great importance that is spoken of, in which there may be fear or anxiety around the way that it will be reciprocated, or the way in which it will be heard, is to spend several days prior to that tapping into the higher part, the angelic self, as we call it, or the higher self of a being, in which you sit in stillness and bring in meditation the highest part of who they are, and you tap into your highest part, in which you're releasing your feeling of being judged or hurt in your personality and ego around a particular situation, in which you share with them your absolute, complete, vulnerable, authentic truth. And in doing that, you bring them into your reality as they're sitting in front of you, and you just unload with true authenticity, without an agenda or seeking for a resolve or outcome, not asking for something to shift or change, but just simply speaking and sharing your truth. And in doing this from that perspective, they're able to receive it, because it's not coming from a place of manipulation or control in which you have an agenda or seeking something to happen from the conversation, but you are simply speaking your truth authentically. If this is an old relationship or one that has a lot of pain associated with it, it may take one or two more meditations. It may take weeks to really release and let go of your truth if you have been holding it inside for a very long period of time. If it is a newer relationship or it's just one issue, it will only take one letting go. You may want to do this in a place where you are alone, for you might find that the voice will start to open. As the throat chakra opens, you might feel a need to scream, to yell, to cry, or to just release and to let go. And it is important to give yourself a sacred space to do that. Once that has occurred and you've released all of the energy around it that has such intensity, and that feels dissolved, then you can drop back into the body and into the human experience and ask, using discernment and in your intuition, is this something that now is best to really drop into and discuss in the 3D physical world, and will this create a shift or an opening? And it is important to know that you may need to do this just for yourself, because in holding back and not sharing your authentic truth, it builds into resentment, and then it builds into anger. And then you might find that you say things that come out sideways or come out in a way that are hurtful, that are not related in any way to the main topic, in which you're hurting the person anyway. So in the question, when you're asking, how can I share my truth without hurting someone, often you may not realize it, but indirectly you're hurting them by not sharing your truth, because you're hurting them in other conversations and other interactions in which you're really not in a place of an open heart in your interaction with them, because you're holding anger and resentment. Often the exercise of going into the higher realms and communicating with that will release that charge. We recommend, if you're going to have an authentic conversation, to do that exercise first. And once it is complete, then give yourself several days before you sit down to have the other conversation. In doing so, just to share your truth lovingly and the best way that you can, and hope that they can be in receiving and be open to that possibility and are able to hear you. When it is not activated with a heavy emotional charge, it is much easier to be received. What is it?
Oh, thank you so much. The next question is, can you please speak to us about the power of our words as tools for creation and manifestation?
It is that the spoken word is so powerful. as are the thoughts. And it is utilized so much in irrelevant ways, where beings are gossiping or just speaking about others, or perhaps in their business, or in a place of criticism or judgment, or they're feeling defensive, and they're defensive about what is being spoken. And in that, words and communication get caught in a web of energy that can create a lot of discord and disharmony in their vibrational frequency, that it then is projected into the hologram of your experience, reflecting back into where it is that you are, what it is you're doing, drama, upset, upheaval, and chaos. And so being particularly honoring of the spoken word and responsible in a sense around it is, of course, essential. And we ask if any of these engagements of energy, of gossiping, criticism, judgment, and defensiveness are anchored into your being, to not judge them because they are there, but to be an observer or a witness of them. And as you step into the awareness of them, you become more and more aware of the word. And when you become more and more aware of the word, you become understanding as how it is creating either magnificent magic, synchronicity, and joy, or it's creating discord and upset and drama. And so it is that most of the time it's happening very unconsciously, so as well as your thoughts. But when you start to bring an awareness to it and you make it a priority, and there are so many things to work on. We hear someone saying the other day to us, well, if I had to do all the things that I'm supposed to spiritually, meditate and exercise and do my yoga and consciously eat and have my organic food and walk and spend time in nature, and with all of these things, that it would take up everything, self-love, nurturing, getting a massage, and we recognize that your world is so out of balance and you're so disconnected from your true way of being in nature that you have an obligation now to do things that perhaps in the past were just second nature, part of what you were doing. If you go back into the way that the indigenous people or even the Native Americans, as they lived on your land, they did not need to exercise, for they were simply being and productive in interaction with Mother Earth, nor did they need to have their nature time, for they just were in nature, nor did they need to have their meditation time, for they just sat as part of their ritual in circle. They danced, they connected, they brought in the elements and the fires. And yes, they still were in discord and disharmony, for the ego was still present, as they did also wage war against one another. And so we ask you to go into the parts of their selves that were connected, that had elevated from ego and separation, and to begin to integrate them more naturally into your experience. But it is that the spoken word and the honoring of it, often in their tradition, as they sat in a circle, they would hold a stick. And as they held this stick, they would have an opportunity to just share and to speak their truth in a place where they were not interrupted, where someone could not have an opinion or be defensive against them. They just shared what it was that they are wanting to do. And so we ask you to return to some of these traditions and your family as you sit in a meal, and perhaps each person has an opportunity to just speak without interruption, to just share what is coming authentically from their own heart. And in that, start to bring an awareness around other conversations and ways of interacting and how powerful your words are. One of the things that we highly recommend doing is the I am, that I am statements. For as you say I am, and then you end that with and so it is, you begin to bring an awareness to what you're really saying. So even just today, you could play a game wherever you are with your spouse or your children or your family or your friends or even your own inner thoughts if you're alone today. And whatever it is that you're thinking or saying, we want you to put in front of it, I am, and so it is. So perhaps you're thinking that you're overwhelmed. I am overwhelmed today. So it would be I am overwhelmed, and so it is. And as you put so it is in, you realize that what you're anchoring into your reality that will begin to mirror into your experience is that what you're saying, because you're saying, and so it is. You're validating it into the holographic field in which it projects a mirror back to you, and you begin to feel, know, and experience that. So it is often this one, Kelly, which I speak through, will wake up, and she often has things going on in her body. And so we practice with her when she says, I am tired, we say, and so it is. And so it is just brings an awareness that you're bringing into your experience that I am that thing. Now, how is it that you differentiate between what it is that you are truly feeling and speaking your truth in an authentic way and the thoughts that are coming through and the words and wanting to shift an awareness around them? For it is that discernment is extraordinarily important here, for discerning what it is that you are truly experiencing in the presence of the moment. For often what you are projecting in your words is something that will be coming in the future or something that has happened in the past. But if you are fully in the awareness of the conscious moment, present where you are, saying, I am, whatever that is, as you tap into your intuitive knowing, often you are absolutely perfect where it is that you are now, and all is well, and so it is. Bringing consciousness to each and every second and every single moment. So the power of the words to create is extraordinarily important and significant. And there are different things that you can do that you perhaps have forgotten through time in which you disconnected from Mother Earth and all of her blessings and all of her light that she brings forward. But if you are wanting to shift or to create or to bring something into reality, using the word and the thought is one of the most powerful ways in order to do that. And often, if you want to bring something into form, into the material, in a sense, it is that the energy of I am around what it is you're experiencing in that material form, rather than the item itself, supports the universe in receiving it. Or you might want something in particular, but what is that wanting about? And what will that give you? What will you receive from that? And as you start to really look deeper into that, often you'll realize it can be based in ego and it's not truly aligned with your authentic self. But as you delve deeper and deeper, you'll find that which you are really, truly seeking to experience or to enjoy or to have or to connect to. And then you can connect with that of I am experiencing synchronistic magic, openness, vitality, health, connection, power, an openness to the divine aspect that I am, creativity, song. You might begin to open up to going and painting today, or playing an instrument, or taking a long walk, or delving deeply into new teachings and understanding, or pushing yourself to grow. And in that, you begin to open up to what you're really wanting to experience, which is joy and pleasure. And often in the human experience is the polarity of not only those things, but you may be in the midst of feeling grief or upset, discord, and pain. And all of those things are part of being in the human vessel and the human experience. Just as Mother Nature brings forth growth, it also comes to a place in which that apple falls to the ground, decays, and passes as it merges back into Mother Earth, and a new cycle begins. For it is part of the third dimensional human experience. But it is not so much about what it is that is unfolding or occurring, but your ability to stay centered and in the presence of what is occurring. and to recognize that the projection of the use of the word can bring forth a mirror into your experience to create an opportunity for there to be more and more light, more joy and more pleasure in everything, even including those moments perhaps that may be labeled as unhappy or difficult. And so use time this week to monitor the word and the thought with the I am statements and the so it is at the end, and realize what you're saying. We noticed with this one that she, in doing this week, because we ask her often to do these things before we share it, that she didn't realize how critical it is that she was of her spouse. She would often say things that were very critical and almost mean. And as they would come out, she would realize that she said whatever it might be. Did you put that cream on your face because you have that rash? Or are you going to act this way? Are you going to do that? And that energy then, when she anchored it and said, and so it is, afterwards brought an awareness and a realization to the power of those words and how that was validating and anchoring in a position in another that then created more strength around it. And so when you continue to say you don't feel well, or you criticize a friend or a child or a spouse or a behavior, or you ask them if they're going to continue a behavior, or that you don't like a behavior, and you use your words in that way, and then you say, and so it is, you realize how much you're courting that into the third dimension and how it's going to continue to perpetuate it. But when you begin to bring more awareness to your I am statements of I am vital and I am strong and I am open and I am whatever it may be, and so it is, I am creative, I am in abundance, rather than I don't have enough and I can't pay my bills and it's not going to work out and I'm afraid of this or that, and so it is, and so it is, and so it is. So we want you to practice your I am and an awareness around your words, and so it is, and the power of that in owning and full, complete ownership of the creation of your experience, and the power of the word and the thought to continue to create it. Now, there are certain things of outside influence that are part of the collective consciousness that are unfolding that aren't fully dependent upon your word. They're dependent upon the collective consciousness of the human race. And so it is that you are a droplet in the ocean of that collective consciousness. And as you choose other words and the creation of that, it ripples into it and is felt vibrationally inside the hearts of all of your fellow human beings. And as more beings become consciously aware of their thoughts and their words, the collective consciousness can begin to shift. And as the collective consciousness begins to shift, an opening into another dimension arises. And as that opening arises, it allows you to step into the possibility of being fully awake. And as you step into the possibility of consciously being fully awake in the awareness of the presence of the now, you begin to shift the outward experience of everything that you're experiencing, not just in your own relationship or in your family or in your home or in your abundance or in your career or whatever it may be, but you'll notice that your government will start to shift, that war will start to shift, that a sense of great poverty and pain on the planet will begin to shift because you are all connected. And so it is harsh in a sense to say that each and every one of you is responsible for what is the current state of the human race. And each of you are responsible for Mother Earth and her ability to begin to heal. For you are all looking for something else to fix it, but it is only inside you that the healing can take place. And so we're calling upon all of you, for if you are together on this call right now, you are what would be perceived a light worker. You're already conscious and aware. You're already tapping into a higher frequency because there's a deep knowing inside that you want to participate in the awakening, or what some of you might call the ascension into a higher dimension for humanity and Mother Earth. And so what better place to begin than with the conscious awareness of the word and the thoughts and the thinking around what it is that you are wanting to create, because you actually are everything. And then understanding to pull away and to disconnect with the words and the thoughts of a consciousness that is not in alignment with unity and sacredness and community for all. What is it?
Wow, thank you so much. So many amazing tools. The next question is there value in seeking others who validate one's truth when it's shared?
Absolutely. For if you are vibrating with a frequency of love and compassion, and you can gather together and seek others who are also vibrating with that frequency, you are expanding that. For whenever you come together in numbers, it exponentially grows a shift in consciousness. That's why throughout your history you gathered in religious sanctuaries, because you came together in a collective thought, and the power of the collective energy around anything is more powerful than the singular. And so gathering together in groups and chanting and singing and drumming and playing and speaking your truth and sharing your ideas is of great importance. Now the question is, are you to only connect with those who have the same values or the same ideas as you? And we ask that if your values are a relationship with expressing more love, yes, but at the same time be open to others and their thoughts and their ideas and where it is that their thinking is and their creativity. For it is, you don't want to isolate yourself completely in an echo chamber of the way you think the world is, because ultimately then you're just creating pods or pockets of energy, and that creates more separation because others are doing that and they're amplifying those thought forms, which is creating a lot of polarization. So it is important to come together in community and to gather in light, but it is absolutely as important to gather with those who perhaps have a different perspective or have come from a different culture or look differently than you. For ask yourself, are you surrounded with people that have the exact same affiliation in their thinking or their politics or their color of skin or their language? Or are you really connecting with a multiple of different energies in which you may perceive the world differently and come from different perspectives, as long as it is based in a place of wanting to bring more light and compassion and love to the planet? What is it?
Thank you. The next question is, when we speak our truth, things seem to change. Can you speak to that?
We have noticed that in the human perspective there is often a lot of fear around change and a gripping and a holding on to things. And often fear gets in the way of speaking one's truth because they're afraid that something will shift or change, and they don't want that to occur or to unfold. So they hold close to their heart their truth, and they push it down in fear of upset or chaos. And so going back to the beginning of this conversation earlier in the call of really tapping into communicating from a higher perspective in deep meditation with those around you in which perhaps you are afraid to speak your truth to will support you in releasing that energy of fear and releasing the vibration of the trigger so that you can talk to them in a way that they can hear you. For it is easy to speak your truth, but depending upon the vibration in which it is projected toward another, it will easily be received openly, in which they'll be able to hear it, or there will be a big shield that will bounce it right back at you, and it will come back at full force and knock you over, in which you will feel hurt. And so releasing the trigger around it and the emotion around it first in that prior exercise will let it go so that it can just be sent out as a truth and a fact that you are experiencing without you having an agenda around how it is received. And in doing that, you will notice it will not be projected back at you with such a gust, but it will just be a trickle of open communication. Opening the throat chakra and exercising in meditation to do so before having a very important conversation is also very helpful, for the throat can get easily blocked and filled with chard and goop, in which it has been blocked around something for so long that it doesn't even know how to speak without doing it in a way that can create a frequency in another that feels offensive, in which they drop into a defensive mode. So spending time spinning, opening, and clearing the throat chakra is also extraordinarily important. What is it?
Well, thank you. The next question is, how can I calm and release my anxiety about my health, career, and love?
We are hating to be a broken record. It is that being in the present moment will release all anxiety. And we know that that's quite a thing to say. But if you're not projecting about your future and worrying about it, then there isn't any anxiety. When you really just drop into the presence and the awareness of the breath of the moment, and you're just consciously acting in that moment to the best of your ability, then that's all there is, and there is nothing to being filled with anxiety or fear about. For the fear and the anxiety comes from the projection around what will happen in the future rather than what is happening in the now. So we invite you to keep bringing your thoughts back over and over, to keep monitoring them and asking, am I present here, wherever it is that I am? Perhaps you're sitting somewhere, drinking some tea right now, looking out the window. Just be present with that. Perhaps as your day gets going, you're brushing your teeth, be present. Feel the toothbrush and the water. As you eat your breakfast, chew your food and swallow each bite. As you take your bike ride, feel each pedal. Spend time connected with the presence of where you are. If you're working, just be present in the moment of the task at hand, doing it with as much consciousness as you can. As you do that, you might notice the way you're sitting is very tense. You're not relaxed in your body. Drop into your body. Let it settle down. Let the muscles open and widen. And just be present in your work of what you're doing. Perhaps you're at the gas station and you're filling the car, but your mind is thinking about the future or a relationship or something that's going to happen or not. Just pump the gas. Be present with it. Be still in it. Feel the earth beneath your feet. Perhaps you're having a conversation, and while you're in it, you're thinking about what you're going to say next. Just be present and listen to the one you're with. be where it is that you are in every breath, in every conscious moment. And as you begin to do this, just truly settling in, perhaps you have to read something for work, and you're worried about if you're going to get it done, and you're looking at the end of the book and how many more pages, or you have a paper to write for school, and the assignment feels overwhelming and fear starts to arise. Just practice being present, taking a breath, and begin reading a sentence. Baby steps, just like when you're with a child and you're teaching them something to walk or to ride a bike. That you can't think about the future if they're going to get it done. They have to drop into the presence of being on that bike and finding their balance. And as they drop into it and find their balance and let go and surrender, the next thing they know, they're off down the driveway. And then it's second nature. They're just riding that bike. They're not thinking about it at all, and the fear is released. But when they're caught in the fear of, can I ride the bike, and will I ride the bike, and will I fall off the bike, and will I get hurt, then you can never ride the bike, because you can never let go enough to just sit down and be present with that pedal and the awareness of tuning into the balance of that inner knowing and letting go. So how do you release fear and anxiety? You just drop into where you are, surrender to where you are, and take it one step at a time. And before you know it, you're off riding, and you forget that you ever didn't know how, or that you were worried you were going to fall off. And you're just enjoying the wind in your hair as you go down the hill. And before you know it, you take your hands off the handlebars, and you're in a playful, joyous, blissful state of the presence of where you are. And so we continue to say this over and over and over, because if you can bring conscious awareness to the presence of each moment and every breath in what would be thought of as a conscious awakened meditation, you become a being that is awake, because you are awake to the human experience in every moment. And as you begin to do that, then it all falls away, that fear, anxiety, angst, discord, and disharmony. Wow. What is it?
Thank you so much, Raphael. The next question is a little off topic, but we thought still important to ask. There was much buzz about the eclipse that occurred this week and the increased benefits of meditating and setting your intention during that time. Is it true that there is increased power or added benefit when there are such astrological occurrences? And if so, why?
You're all deeply interconnected to astrological events, much more so than you give yourself opportunity to understand, to study, to know, and to recognize. As you go back in history of written cultures, you'll see that they honored the moon and the sun and the stars for great reason, for they could connect to other dimensional realities and tap into beings that were not seen and heard in the third dimension, but were open to places that were beyond your understanding. And so, of course, when there is an astrological event, there are openings, and it creates a space to amplify. As the moon becomes closer, it amplifies everything. You'll notice babies are born and beings pass and die, for the portal opens and the transition time between death and birth is much easier. Perhaps you may have known someone recently in this last week with that big full moon that either was born or passed, for it is in science you will see that the numbers expand during this time. And so there is an opening to magnify anything that you're placing your attention to. The portal is wider. And so it's always a magnificent and beautiful time to bring your intention, your words, and your thoughts into the process of creation, and to begin to reconnect with the cycles of Mother Earth and the galaxies and the stars and the sun and the moon, for they are all very much a part of you, made from the same substance of infinite light, for you are a part of them as they are you, and they are not separate. So we ask you to return to the rituals of coming together during these times and gathering in ceremony, for this did not happen by coincidence over your time in history for a reason that was not of importance, for it is a time in which the veil is thinner and an opportunity to connect with beings such as myself and the great ascended masters is open. In a sense, the best way to describe it is that the portals are wider and the ability to pass through with greater ease and to receive support and assistance is stronger. What is it?
Thank you so much. This is our last question for today, and it's also off the topic, but in a way related to our last question. The question is, what are the first things people see when they go to heaven?
It is magnificent, and yet not easy to explain in your way of perhaps understanding. It is that it is different in many respects for each and every one of you. There is a moment, a glimpse in which every word that was spoken and every thought that you had and every action and every deed gets, in a sense, reviewed. We call it a life review, in which it's hard to explain because how could you review your entire life within seconds? Because there is a difference in the time understanding of space, for we are not in linear time as the physical body is released. And you really drop into feeling and witnessing and watching everything. And it's not that you do it to be judged or to another to judge you. It's simply an opportunity to really recognize the thread and the interwoven connection that you have to everything and the importance of the awareness of your consciousness and how you have connected in your life to all things. Once this is past and you have moved through that part, you begin to merge and are, in a sense, what would be perceived as welcomed by a committee of energies. Often they are ones that you've known, and they support you in the adjustment of releasing the body and the physical senses as you step into this new realm of connectedness and bliss. The joy and light and bliss that you feel cannot be described with words. There is no word to describe this feeling of just knowing and oneness and merging with everything. You just are receiving and blanketed in a blanket of love, and love is different from the way you understand it here, for it has no conditions and it's not related to anything. It just is. And you feel embraced beyond words. And from there is choice. Many of you choose, for you feel tired and are just wrapped in that love. We call it a time of incubation where you just rest. And your soul is purely at peace as it absorbs light and it begins to recalibrate, especially if the past lifetime had been difficult. Some of you are ready to quickly merge with a team of beings in which you're off on a project, busy assisting in other ways. Some of you have a great desire to quickly return, to come through the birth canal. As you've looked at your life review, there's so many things you want to do again and shift and change and open and grow, and you quickly return to your soul pod of beings that are born in a new way. Some of you take time to just be between worlds, where you choose to be connected still to the 3D to assist those on earth that you loved, and yet you come and go in and out as you have assignments in other places, but you come back to care for and to assist. There are as many possibilities as you can begin to conjure up, for it is infinite and open. There is nothing to be afraid of, for there is nothing frightening about it, other than sometimes if it's an unexpected death in which the soul forgot and something occurred, or just because the soul got completely off track, they may feel a moment of fear or anger in that they find themselves outside of their body. This is a time of transition in which others come and support them to adjust, and then they recalibrate back into the light. That is the only time in which there can be a moment of disharmony. But it is that it is filled with love and joy and assistance and awakening and remembering and bliss and beauty. And I cannot even describe it to you with these words, but I want to assure you that there is absolutely, completely nothing to be afraid of. So with that, I send to you all of my love and all of my light, and continue to remind you to be present, to be impeccable, as other beings have said in the past, with your word, to be conscious of your words and your thoughts, to speak your authentic truth, to release your fear, and to remember that you are divine. With that, many, many blessings, much love, and good day. Aww.